If someone is not really connected to their goal, not connected to the vision that they have for their life, and not conscious of their triggers that are then coming up, I call these money stories. What did you learn? What did you pick up from your parents and your grandparents and your first boss and your first business? What money stories do you hold on to that are no longer serving you?
What's a conversation that people should be having that you've seen as like a pain point that you've addressed and you've solved and now you know it is like your absolute truth?
It's never about the numbers. It's always about...
What if your relationship with money has less to do with numbers and more to do with stories that you've inherited? In today's episode, I'm joined by Hannah Chapman, a financial visionary who helps high-level entrepreneurs build wealth from a foundation of emotional safety and inner alignment. But this conversation goes far beyond financial planning because Hannah reveals the quiet, often invisible ways money beliefs shape our relationships, the moment that tests our trust, and what it really takes to create a home that feels safe emotionally and financially. She opens up about the personal work it took to rebuild connection in her own marriage, navigate parenting through transformation, and confront the generational patterns so many of us carry when it comes to money, love, and legacy. But before we dive in, just do me a quick favor, okay? Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps the show grow and lets us keep sharing these meaningful conversations with more people just like you. All right, let's get into it. All right, everyone, welcome to Real Influence. My name is Joey Vaillancourt, and I'm here with my friend Hannah Chapman today. I'm excited for this conversation because Hannah and I met just by happenstance in a random meeting through a Sebastian Cruz mastermind. And as soon as I talked to you, I was like, this woman's different. Like, she's tuned into what I'm tuned into, and I'd love to learn more about what you have going on. And after we had our initial conversation, I was like, okay, we have to have you on the show. So Hannah, welcome to the show.
Joey, thank you so much for having me on. And I wanted to share, we just recorded another podcast too for mine. So if anyone feels like, whoa, they're like really dropped in like immediately. Yeah, it's because we've already had this amazing conversation. So if you want to hear part one, you'll have the link to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Check out Hannah's podcast, Expansive CEO. We just did an amazing episode, I think. Of course, it was my episode, so I would think nonetheless. However, it was amazing, but we're dropped in now. I always like to ask people, we can leave the stories and everything else for after, but what's something interesting about yourself that not many people might know?
Ooh, that's a good question. So you might be surprised to know. So I'm a financial advisor. I own my own practice. I am a business coach, but my degree is in flute performance. Music is extremely close to my heart and important to me in a lot of ways. And I also knit and spin yarn on a wheel that comes from Canada. It's a Canadian production wheel that was made in like the 1910s. So this antique, gorgeous spinning wheel that I love. And I think these are all these little pieces of me are all like parts of my expression and parts of my personality that I think it's really important to maintain connection to.
Yeah. Yeah. Following our passions, right? Like keeping that alive, even if they don't make us money. It's not about money. It's about having passion in our life that fuels the growth for the impact we're making with people, clients, etc.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And teaching, I also believe that everything that we've done over our lifetimes really creates a beautiful mosaic of who we are now. And so what we've experienced before can be, not just can be, but is a really important piece of how we then interact with others. And that's part of what makes us unique and special and different. And why would someone work with you and not anyone else, right? Like because of everything about you, not just because of what you do or how you do it.
That's so important, especially in a day and age where everything's available to everybody. Like the packaging, the marketing of who that person is, what the resonance is going to be, why I want to work with this person. And some people shelter that. I've noticed myself even like masking. I don't want to talk about the things that I've done because that's not professional. It's like, no, they want to hear. They want the personality behind who they're working with. That's how they choose you.
100%. 100%. And the other aspect of me, I'm a CFP. I own my own financial advisory firm. Yes, that's important. I love that business. I love helping people in that way. But 4 years ago, I also discovered human design and gene keys and learning more about who I am as a being in this lifetime. And letting myself dive into that, letting myself explore every rabbit hole that was calling to me in that area opened up my business in such a beautiful way. Like all the things that I had been dreaming of, people reaching out to me, people wanting to work with me because I bring, again, that uniqueness that just materialized when I started being really intentional and grounded in. I love knowing more about myself. I love the fact that I've worked so hard and so intentionally on healing my inner child. I love that I've connected so deeply with my soul's purpose. And I get to then bring those things together, the logical of the finance plus the emotional and spiritual of human design and inner child work and plant medicine and knowing yourself deeply and mindfulness. These things all go together for me. And I think there are more and more people who are waking up to that fact as well.
It's so unique. And I have this not negative association to like financial planning, but maybe like a resistance to it
Yeah.
because I've had advisors where it's like, they're just not talking my language. They're talking about retirement. They're talking about how anything could happen. You don't know what's around the corner. And I'm like, oh God, this is scarcity. I don't like this. I don't want this. Knowing that you're doing something different, why don't you explain a little bit to everyone listening, like how do you integrate all this? What is it tactically that you're doing for people, like, and who your clients are?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And when I'm taking in a new client and we're doing an exploration call or anything like that, I want to know, that's one of the questions that I ask is, have you worked with a financial advisor before? And what was that experience like? Because for most of the people that are coming to me, it has been that kind of experience. Either they
Mm.
had negative experiences where they felt like they weren't heard, weren't listened to, were talked at, told what to do, told how to feel, or they've had such negative baggage, like societal baggage with it, that they just haven't even gone there. They're like, I just don't want to, I've never wanted to connect with a quote unquote finance bro, which can be a finance broette too, right? It can, it's all that same energy of, like you said, of scarcity, of there's not enough, of like just unconscious wealth building is what it feels like. And the shift for me, I've been in this industry since 2006. I started in banking in 2006, then financial planning in 2007. So we're closing in on 2 decades here that I've been working with people in this capacity. And what I realized over and over again was that you could create a perfect plan for someone. You could tell someone exactly, you tell me this is what your goal is. Here's what it takes to get there if you save XYZ. And over and over, I would also like meet with people and they would not be reaching their goals. Something would come up, something like there would be like always something in the way, something happening. And what I realized was it's actually how people feel about their money and how people feel about their goals that actually determines the steps that they're able to take, the steps that they allow themselves to take. And so if we have this like, even if you make plenty of money and you have the ability to do what you want to do, if someone is not really connected to their goal, not connected to the vision that they have for their life, and not conscious of their triggers that are then coming up, I call these money stories. What did you learn? What did you pick up from your parents and your grandparents and your first boss and your first business? What money stories do you hold on to that are no longer serving you? That's what we actually need to deepen in and understand. And then once we clear the air around a lot of those money stories, suddenly the goals are like, oh, that's easy slash done, right? It's like they just happen. And so that was a big piece of it. That was one of the first shifts that I made when I went out on my own, was to really speak very clearly about how important it is. Like, it's not just about the numbers, it's about how you feel about the numbers. Because you and me, say we have the exact same portfolio, the exact same level of assets, but you are totally connected, totally locked in, totally present. And I'm over here being unconscious and scared and grinding and hustling. We can have the exact same numbers And you might feel amazing about it, and I might feel freaking stressed out about it. So it's not about the numbers. It's never about the numbers. It's always about how you are internalizing and the emotional reaction you're having to them. So that was the first step. That was the first shift that I was really making and speaking really clearly about. The second shift was more scary for me to actually come out of, quote unquote, come out of the closet about, was when I was learning human design and when I was diving in and when I was making so many shifts for me, for my family, with my kids, with my husband. I was like, I have to share this. I have to have a way to, it's changing my life in this amazing way. So I started sharing with a few clients who I knew, who I was very like heart connected with. And I was like, it's safe. These are safe people to bring my woo out with. And they were. And it literally changed their lives as well. And that was the evidence that I needed to start, okay, I'm going to start talking about this more. I'm going to start working with it more. I was in a smaller mastermind with, you mentioned Sebastian Cruz. We were in a very small mastermind, like 5 of us together. And I would bring that when they would have challenges. We would talk, I would bring in the human design lens, right? When we're masterminding together. And I really got to practice there as well. And finally in 2023, it was like I couldn't mask it any longer. It was ready. And I was scared because this is a financial industry, right? Everything is so straight laced. Everything is so buttoned up. Even talking about emotions is like a little bit soft for the financial space. And here I am bringing in spirituality and astrology and human design. And yet that's exactly what people want and need and are asking for, literally Google searching for. And once I really opened up, and there's some, we can talk about some of the ways that I was really hiding and really scared of opening up in that way. But once I did, like clients literally, I would go on vacation, I would go out, I would be in flow, and requests are just coming into my email, people jumping on my calendar, people asking questions on YouTube, people like that was the thing that was finally like my space, my stake, right? Like this is real, this is important, this works.
It's incredible that you paired up like spirituality, astrology. And what really stood out to me is we talked about this on the last episode was the narrative that people have, the unconscious belief in something that is guiding their decisions. And a lot of people, if you ask them, hey, finish a sentence, when you're growing up, money was blank. Most people say money was scarce. So everyone's got this scarcity-based approach and it's guiding their decisions, not
Right.
just in money. This could be in working out or finding a partner. If you think that nobody can be trusted, it's really hard to find a trustful partner, right? Like you
Yeah.
get what you focus on. You talked about a pivot and I want to go back because it sounds like you were really in the industry, like you were working like for someone else, and now you've moved into working for your own business, finding your own unique space, but also attracting through flow rather than force. What
Mhm.
was it like making that shift? Because I can imagine it's probably not easy, right? Like it's a lot of, should I do this? Maybe there's more safety here. What called you to it? And what gave you the courage to actually move forward in that?
So what the way that I market, the way that I speak, the way that I present myself and express myself is very different from the rest of the financial industry. And when I was in a corporate setting or more corporate setting, I worked for a large broker dealer, a franchise group of that large broker dealer, and they have, I don't know, 20,000 advisors total in this company. So compliance has to be really tight. You got to be in your box. No one can come out of the box very much, right? It's just like little tiny bits. And a big piece of why I left, why I created X Squared Wealth Planning, was because I couldn't be me. And it wasn't working. I was not, I would get clients because they knew me, right? And they'd be like, oh, you're a financial advisor. Will you help me? And that was great. And that's continued as well. But I couldn't say things even in my own language, right? That the company would come back and be like, you have to delete that LinkedIn post, or we deleted it for you because you can't change the language in that way. And so when I launched X Squared back in 2021, that was a big piece of it, was to be able to be me. Then being in the independent space, working with a boutique, Juncture Wealth Strategies is the boutique RIA that backs me up. And we have 5 advisors and a compliance officer there that I go, hey, Jack, this is what I'm doing. And he's cool, sounds great. Don't make any promises. Don't tell anyone like to buy this particular stock and you're good. I'm like, great, thank you. So just that, even at the very beginning, like having this, it felt like an open road. It felt like I had just go, just be you. So starting from there, I got to experiment. I got to try a lot of different things. And I was still trying to be, right? I'm supposed to gather assets under management. I'm supposed to just be a financial advisor. That's my lane. That's what I am, quote unquote. And from the very beginning, it just didn't feel like enough. It didn't feel deep enough. It didn't feel like I was connecting with people enough in the way that I love to, in the way that I love to go deep with people, understand their business, understand who they are. And to our conversation, so everyone should really go listen to the first episode because we talked about this too. Deepening with a mentor, writing a check for a mentor, like investing in a mentor in a big way. That's the same thing that I did in the very end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And I was noticing how much that was changing and shifting me. And that was the same thing that I wanted to bring to my clients, was that mentorship, but being the guide that could hold their hand through it. Not just the advisor that says, okay, here's all the puzzle pieces, and then this is how it makes sense. That doesn't light me up in any sort of way. Fast forward a little bit, things were going a good couple of years, hard, super hard, but good. But I was also really shifting a lot within myself. I was doing a lot of healing my inner little girl, like healing from emotional trauma in my childhood in a lot of different ways, healing from religious trauma. I was doing a lot of healing. And I have very specific memories of before I would get on a sales call, like sometimes I'd be screaming into a pillow because sales felt so icky to me in so many ways. I had these visceral reactions to getting on a sales call, to saying the investment to work with me, to every aspect. I had to I can even feel it now. I'm like, oh, I remember. I remember the waves of grief, the waves of fear that I had to move through in order to build in those first couple of years, to own my value, to understand who I am. And then starting in, that was 2023. That was it. In April of 2023, I was called to an ayahuasca ceremony. And I was feeling that call earlier in 2022. This is crazy. I've never done anything like that. Nothing even remotely close. Never went to a rave, never recreationally did anything. And here I am.
Went all in.
All in. Yeah. When people hear that, they're like, that was your first experience? I was like, yeah. That's what was calling. And I didn't have anything to compare it to. But it felt like this is extremely important. And so I went, it was a really beautiful container with about 7 other women. And we sat ceremony 2 nights, had a breathwork ceremony before. And that, all of that, starting from the breathwork, then going into the ceremony, there was such deep emotional healing that happened in that ceremony. And I knew after I came out of that, and part of the integration process, I knew that I was hiding my spiritual self. I was presenting my emotional self, and I was presenting my logical self, but I was hiding my spiritual self. And this experience was like showing me so strongly that I needed to be integrated and that I needed to integrate all of me, be accepting and loving of all of my parts, or else the people that I'm serving, they don't have another example. Like I'm here to be a living example. And if I'm not doing it, then I'm not setting that example that I'm here to set. And for anyone who's familiar with human design, that's written all over my human design as well. And so part of the problem, though, one of the things that made me really nervous was that my husband is very skeptical. He doesn't believe in any astrology pieces. He doesn't understand how the stars could and the planets could affect who we are and how we be in the world. So he had this very negative view on human design because part of it is it's astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the chakra system, and the Kabbalistic tree of life, right? It's all these traditions melded together. And so what I found, especially in 2023, during this time, I was being more of myself. I was sharing human design. I was sharing the connection between prosperity and who you're being and how you're being yourself or not. And I was sharing it online and I was sharing it in masterminds and I was sharing it with clients. But at home, I would shut it all the way off because I didn't feel safe to be seen. And part of it was because when I had shared it a couple of times, I had gotten snarky feedback. I'm going to say, I've been with my husband, it'll be 24 years in the middle of August. We've been married for 19, and we have been through over that time, it's like we've had many relationships, truly. And there was a time starting the business was hard. It was hard on our relationship. And we have 3 children, 14, 12, and 10 now. 4 years ago, they're 10, 8, and 6. They're little. It's a lot of work and it was a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. And in that moment of feeling unseen and unheard and like other people, I could be myself, what felt like more the integrated me with other people, but I couldn't be the integrated me with my husband was so painful. And it was so hard. And one of the basically what I did was I shared with him that this is really important to me. And I understand that you don't agree, but this has really helped me a lot. And this is really helping others as well. And so when we had a really deep conversation about that. And he was able to then see how when he had responded snarkily or sarcastically, how much that had hurt and made me just like shut down. And so his first shift was to see that, oh, I see that you're not trying to manipulate or hurt people. That was his worry. It's, oh, people use this kind of stuff to manipulate others. It's like the story that he was carrying with it, rather than seeing it as what I truly believe it is, which is a way to know yourself. Like I don't have to manipulate anything. It's just the information is what it is. And then we get to explore it together if you want to. And if someone doesn't want to explore it, that's fine. There's no manipulation needed because the people who want it and the people who don't. And so that was the first piece, was for him to open up and be like, I see that. I see that about you. I see that's another beautiful facet to who you are. And again, because we have been together for so long, because that's such a deep relationship, it was really hard for me to feel like I could overcome that when he was on the detracting side. And I think for a lot of people, and I know this, again, I've several clients who are navigating divorce right now for very similar reasons. That they just can't get on the same page, that they're not seeing each other in the most, what's the word? They're not able to give each other the benefit of the doubt. And there is a point there, I had 2 or 3 different points where I was at that place as well. If we can't allow each other to be who we are, then we need to we need to not be together so that we can each really be more of who we are. And for me, and it was at that point, it was like, I felt like I was just hiding. I was masking. I couldn't be me. And it was feeling so painful that I was ready to say, like, it would suck to get divorced, but it sucks more to keep hiding who I am. And I have to make a choice. And to Adam's credit, he really decided, okay, like, I'm not going to do it the way you're doing it. He didn't do all the things that I did, but he found his own way. He found Thich Nhat Hanh, he found mindfulness, he found the Waking Up app, he found so many things that resonated for him so that he could start to understand his emotions and his emotional response and find his way towards mindfulness. And that was the thing that shifted because it felt like we were just like going in totally separate directions. And I didn't know how to come back together. And I didn't want to shrink myself either or be, again, not be a fully integrated version of me. And when he started finding these other things, we started having conversations and talking about what things were sparking for him. That was a huge turning point. And then the second turning point was after I had started doing human design, after I had started like really deepening with it. I might have the timeline slightly wrong. We had another like come to Jesus moment. And I was like, if it's not like things have to shift, we have to be able to connect emotionally. I was feeling very emotionally disconnected. And I offered, it wasn't really an ultimatum, but it was like, I don't want to do marriage counseling, but I will do this container with you. We can do an MDMA journey together. And that I feel like I was very called to, like, that's how we're going to be able to break through. And he was like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Yes. And to hear him say it after, he's like, it wasn't an ultimatum. Like I was interested in that too. It wasn't like you were dragging me into something I didn't want to already do. I was like, okay, good. Thank you. But it was that experience then was actually the most pivotal moment for us as a couple that we've ever had. And that was almost 2 years ago at this point, and we have been able to intentionally maintain that connection for all of the last 2 years. It's literally been the best 2 years of our entire relationship of 24 years at this point, which is, I don't know, it's amazing. I'll pause there.
No, I think like first off, 24 years it's a lifetime. It's amazing, especially I hate to be like the old guy in the room, but not a lot of people are staying married for that long. And myself included, I was married for 7 years. And based on our last interview, we talked about how I was very driven by ego. I had good intentions I was in self-development. I was very much on the same journey of growing and learning these new concepts about myself. But I was like forcing it on my previous wife. I was like, you have to learn this stuff. You should know this stuff. And it wasn't done in a loving, hey, I hope you join me in this. And I realized that looking back, and I understand and I've learned from that so that I can bring that into my new relationship with my wife and my kids and not do it from a place of force, but a place of resonance and understanding that we need to grow together, but we also need to grow as individuals and we have to
Yeah.
come together as we grow. If not, if one person's growing, then you're growing apart, right? If nobody's seeking more truth in themselves, more awareness, it can become volatile for a relationship. And I've had that experience. And one thing that I would mention to people listening, if you're facing this decision of should I stay or should I go, one of my mentors told me something and it's always stuck with me. One thing he said is for him, he said he's closed the door on divorce. He said, if you don't give an option to it, then it just doesn't become something you're entertaining. That's one thing. And he said another thing too is to focus on not, I want this person to change or should I leave or should I go? The right question is, what do you want? And if you can figure out what you want in your partner or your life or as a couple, and start to focus on that. And again, act as if this is what is occurring. You might end up with the same person and it might have a loving relationship, which is what you experienced. Or maybe it doesn't work out. And in my experience, I found something even greater than I even ever imagined possible, but it wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
But it's not trying to control the situation. It's trying to focus on what is it that you want. And if you're not defined in that and you're just focused on what you don't want, guess what? There's another saying that I've heard. It says, everywhere I go, there I am. So if you
Mhm.
end up in this relationship and it's like, oh, if I leave this person, I'm going to find the next person. If you don't change, if you don't make that intention for yourself, you're going to end up in the same relationship, which does happen. People go through these cycles of, I just can't find the right guy, the right girl, because they're not doing the reflection. They're not doing the work. They're not unlocking what you unlocked through healing practices. And whether it's MDMA or ayahuasca, I did just if people are against like substances, which I'm not, but some people might be like a little scared of that because it's like you went from 0 to 60 with the
Yeah.
ayahuasca
0 to 100,
was,
maybe.
yeah, we were at an event and we did a group breathwork session. And
Ooh.
breathwork is really powerful. It's just that whoever hasn't done it properly, it's like you see things, you unlock things. And I was like, you know what? I really want to do a breathwork session with my wife. And so we hired this girl who was leading the group. And we went into her hotel room that afternoon and she like had us on the bed. We were holding hands and we did this deeply profound 30-minute, 60-minute breath work session. Like she talked to us beforehand, then we did the actual breath work. And I got to feel my wife beside me as she's going through whatever she's going through in her head, healing and crying and sharing that with her. And the point is, whether it's breath work, whether it's therapy work, whatever it is, but being involved in this together, having that open conversation that you guys are growing together and you want to experience it together and that you're in it for both sides. It could be good and bad sometimes, but that you have each other's back. I think that's so powerful to just be doing those things to grow and understand what someone else is going through and to at least see them and hear them. One of my like core conflicts for a long time has been I'm not seen, I'm not heard, and I'm different.
Mhm.
And I've realized that I have believed that for so long, but it doesn't mean that's actually the reality. Like we talked about before, it's like the narrative of people's money beliefs, right? That's not really the truth around this whole concept. So it's really important to relabel this in a different way. But I'm glad that you guys experienced that. How did that shift things? What are some things with your family that you've noticed maybe dynamically changing from that shift with your husband now?
Oh my gosh. It's been so profound. It's so profound. Again, we have 3 kids right now. As of 2025, they're 14, 12, and 10. We have a girl, boy, girl. And our older 2 kids are on the autism spectrum as well. And the challenges that we had with them when they were little, like we didn't know if our oldest daughter, we didn't know if she would be verbal. And when she was very young, it was very clear to me by the time she was 2 to 3 years old that something was very different, and I suspected autism. And then my son, my second child, presented differently from my oldest, but still in a way that was like, okay, this is not typical. They're not like other kids. And so one of the things that we experienced, this was in 2021, I believe. So yeah, I was launching my business. There was so much going on that my son, Henry, he's 12 now. So he was 7 at the time. He was having, or 8 at the time, he was having really hard outbursts. Just really really difficult, and to the point where I like didn't know how to deal with it, and he wouldn't respond to me. I thought maybe he had the problem with women for a while, right? Because Adam was the only one that he would even like calm down for. And it was just really rough and really say things that I hate you and you're the worst and all of that stuff that can come up and can be super triggering. And it was in some ways. And I was healing, I was working on that for me inside of me. And I had 3 different mentors at that time as well. And one of them told me that when I shift, he will shift too. And I was like, oh, that's a terrible thing to tell me right now. That feels so hard. It feels really hard, especially when he's like having the outward expression that he's having. But when I shift, he'll shift. When I shift, he'll shift. I just kept like breathing into that, believing that, and then learning again a lot of my journey, healing my inner child, healing my relationship to my inner child, was learning how to hold that safe emotional space. And we had a turning point, Henry and I, at one point when he was freaking out. He was really angry. And I remember I was holding Henry and he was having this, don't hold me, let me go. And I just felt in my bones like he needs to be held. He needs to know that I am safe, that I am bigger than him. I am safer than him right now. I am a safe space. And as I did that, as I held him, he eventually just broke down crying, having that emotional release that he was like, it's like the energy was so pent up. It was, you could see it like him trying not to boil it out, the emotion, the sadness. Because what is anger? If we look at the Hawkins scale shows that anger is above sadness and grief. Underneath all of that anger he was experiencing and pushing outward was so much sadness at not understanding himself, at not understanding why he had a hard time making friends, at all of these things, thinking he was a bad person at 7 and 8 years old. Those were internal stories that he had picked up from school and from friends and from, or not friends necessarily, but other kids, and not messages that we had shared with him, right? We love him unconditionally, but he couldn't tap into it until he could feel fully safe, that I could hold him and I could hold the depth of that expression from him. And that was a huge turning point. It wasn't perfect right at that moment, but it set up the space for him to feel safe, that the emotional container of mom is deep and is safe. And that same learning, so that was like 4 years ago at this point. And the deeper I meet myself, the deeper I go into, like I said, the ayahuasca experience, the MDMA experience. I've had a few different psychedelic journeys over the last several years. I take a lot of time for integration after each one, but each one has allowed me to meet myself deeper so that I can then hold deeper space for my kids. Even with my 14-year-old, she's going into high school next year, like literally in the next couple of weeks. And we've just moved, we've done this big transition, and she's really having a hard time with it. And my job is to be that safe emotional space for her, right? When she's feeling these really hard, big feelings, feeling, I don't want to be here. I don't feel like this is right. Like I want to hurt myself. Like stuff comes up. Yes, she works with a therapist. Yes, we have all those other things in place too, but she needs that emotional depth from me. And because Adam has joined me on this path and has joined me in this work of finding mindfulness, finding his depth, he is now also able to hold space for our kids. And we do it a little bit differently, but we do it in a way that is supportive from the deeply supportive feminine and supportive from the deeply supportive masculine, right? Like all of those things together are creating a safe space for our kids, even if sometimes it's still hard and they still go through teenage experiences. Like puberty is hard and teenage years are hard and high school is hard and middle school is hard. And we can be that safe space for them. And that 100% has come from our ability and willingness and intention on looking inward. And again, like mining that emotional material so that we're not bringing our material to the table. We're able to be a clear space and safe space for our kids to work through what's coming up for them.
Yeah, I love that. And I was getting choked up when you're talking about your 7-year old. Just I think about our 5-year old and 2-year old, and I've had recent experiences where I'm seeing them suffer, and I just want to help them. I want to support them, and of course, as a guy, sometimes I want to just fix it. And I've realized that sometimes that's not what they need. They just need like somebody to be there. They don't
Yeah.
need to hear something that I think they need to hear. They don't need me to control something. And I've seen the same release in our kids sometimes where I can, it's funny because kids are a reflection to you sometimes, right? I can see me in
Yeah.
them and I'm like, oh, geez, little Joey. I'm like, I know what you're going through. And I've seen the same emotional release because I'm able to tap into that deeper knowing because I'm not blocked by my previous biases and the things that I've never challenged as my own assumptions. I've done a lot of the
Mhm.
work and I can understand because I've experienced the same contrast they're going through, but I can come at it from a different lens now. And it's just so much more powerful. And the thing that really strikes me, going back to financials, because we went like on this other tangent of like growth and healing, which is all part of the conversation. The fact
Mhm.
that you're tuned into this just makes me like anchor in the knowing that people that are experiencing these advisors and people dealing with their money or their own money blocks are just, I hope that either whether they work with you or somebody like you that's tapped into this side of it, there's not just a financial gain potential, that there's a really evolutionary gain as well. If you can, because like they're going to resonate with you. You know what I mean? They're going to understand like who you are. They're going to want to learn more about that part of it, which is going to unlock more than just, again, economics, finance, whatever it is. And that's somebody that again, I don't know, I probably had like 6 different advisors in my lifetime
Yeah.
because I just kept asking, like, is this the person talking the life that I want to live? No, they're not the person for me. And I think more people need to ask that question often in life. What was I believing initially that led me to this person? And do I still believe those same things? And this applies not just to an advisor, it applies to everything in life. I have it in my calendar to challenge a lot of my assumptions, whether monthly or quarterly, or I'll just sit
I
down and
love
be
that.
like, should I really be living in this house? And maybe the answer is absolutely. I love it. Great. I'm grateful now, even more than ever before. Or maybe it's like, actually, you know what? Come to think of it, I liked this place back 5 years ago. Now it's maybe it doesn't serve me anymore. I don't think enough people challenge it because there's this fear like of change. What would that look like if I shifted my career? What if I didn't work for somebody? But what would it look like if I did? What would the unlock be? Like you're able to operate from a flow state now, be yourself, and attract even better clients than before, make more money, be more successful, be happier. But if you were stuck in this other corporation that like limited you, you wouldn't be feeling that. You wouldn't be having these unlocks. So it's just,
Mhm.
it's so profoundly different the world we live in of like what it used to be versus what it is. I want to ask a tactical question though related to money, just because if somebody can walk away from here, maybe it's a problem some of your clients are coming in with. And we talked about the money story. So maybe it relates to that, but maybe there's a deeper thing. But if there's one thing that like couples, what's a conversation that whether it's, a married couple or just like they're dating, but they're organizing the finances together, what's a conversation that people should be having that you've seen as like a pain point that you've addressed and you've solved and now you know it is like your absolute truth?
Mhm. Okay, so we're gonna take it from that if you're in a partnership standpoint. The thing that I know without a doubt to be true is that unless you are giving space to your partner, whether that's your romantic and life partner or a business partner, unless you're giving each other space to actually feel into what you each desire, like what you each truly want separately, one partner is being bulldozed. And that sounds harsh, but trust that I've seen it over and over again where there's one partner that tends to take the lead with money. And so they also tend to take the lead in planning. And so they also tend to take the lead in talking about goals. And then the other partner, and I'm not, yep, not, it can be either gender. I've seen both. The one that stays quietly builds resentment. And over the years, and when you get to the goal and when they're like, I'm not happy. This isn't what I wanted. This is what you wanted. And it's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking to see it because how do we avoid that in the first place? We give voice. We give voice to everyone in the room. so that when you, and I do this tactically because through my process, like it's part of the process, but I have like a deep questionnaire that I have, if I have spouses with me or partners in any way, I have them each, it's like, do not look at each other's paper. This is alone work. You do not do this together. I want to know, what is it that you most want to experience? What do you desire? If they each have their own business, what does your business look like in the future? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you experiencing 10, 20, 30 years down the road? And I want each of them to vision into that by themselves. And then when we come together, they get to, all right, now you get to look at each other's homework. It's so profoundly beautiful to see people see their spouse in a new way or see things about them that are like, oh my God, I didn't know how important that was to you. Or then to see, oh my gosh, we want the same thing here. And then you want these different things, right? So, how do we honor all the people in the equation so that the one person who tends to, and it's okay if you have one partner who tends to be the financial one, divide and conquer, right? That's beautiful. But when we don't give voice, when we don't ask all the partners the same questions so that everyone can be heard, truly heard equally in the room, that's where the bulldozing happens and that's where the resentment builds. So we head it off right from the very beginning by making sure that all the partners know this is a safe space for all conversation.
I like that a lot. I like the exercise of isolating people in, hey, you guys both do your visions separately. Because a lot of times conversations happening in real time, both of you on the call, and one person, like you said, might be bulldozing the conversation. Other person's like silently nodding, not
Right.
in agreement, maybe. And then coming together and being like, oh, wow, I didn't realize. And then it's before we even start this process, let's get aligned with that. I like
Mhm.
that. That's a great exercise. I don't, and not just for money. I think like in life in general, what's your vision? What's
Right.
my vision? And are we actually aligned? I'm going to revisit it. I have been the bulldozer. I've noticed myself being like, hey, we think it's a good idea. I don't leave enough space sometimes. You know what I mean? Like to be like, get the actual buy-in. And I've caught myself. And when we have those disagreements or like the friction points, I have went to, like, oh, actually, it's more important that we are aligned in this than me getting my way. It's more important, like just recently, I bought a sauna, right? And we both wanted a sauna, and I found this sauna, and it's a good one. I researched it, and then I realized I was like, actually, it didn't matter what sauna we got. Like, it mattered more that we were both in it, and we weren't. I made the decision. Like, nobody's perfect, but I'm realizing like that's really important to give space and making sure that at the very least, somebody feels heard, seen, and that they've had a right to say something and like, hey, I don't agree or I do agree. And yeah, good self-reflection for myself
Mm.
included. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing so much of the wisdom today and the healing. I'm in Canada, and I'm assuming that you're a US person where you work with Canadian, not Canadians, but US residents. So if there's a high achiever listening right now and they've resonated with what you had to say, what's your message to them? What's your invite to them?
If someone is resonating with what I'm saying, and first of all, yes, to confirm that from a financial advisory perspective, I can only work with clients in the US, or US citizens. But on the business coaching and human design coaching side, that is through Expansive CEO and that is worldwide. So we can do a lot of this work. I just can't say, okay, and now you should put X amount of dollars into your, I can't remember what it is in Canada, but the equivalent of an IRA, right? Like your retirement account. I just can't go to that level. But if you are listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I explore this more? One, I have so many resources on my different websites, some that are self-study, some that are coaching packages, right? All of that is available. But one thing that's really powerful and profound, again, is this inner child work and healing, finding your money stories and giving them space. What are the stories that you are playing out again today that you don't even realize are actually, that's your mom or that's your grandma
Mm,
or that's your PE teacher in seventh grade because he said something weird about money once, right? Like where is that coming from? And there's a very profound meditation that you can get on the website too, called the Money Story Meditation, that will take you through that, will guide you through that. And then journaling prompts to help you like mine the experience and connecting with yourself is such a powerful way to start to open up to what comes next, what else is available for you when you start letting go of those old stories. Because yes, we are all extremely powerful creators. If you're a high achiever and you've been driven and to what Joey has talked about so much of having the drive, having the vision, having the ability to take those steps, that is a superpower that is so beautiful and so important. And there's nothing wrong with you. Those are beautiful qualities. And there's also a way to do it that feels softer, more aligned, more more spacious, right? Less from a have to and more from a want to. And if you want to get to that place of I want to and I'm excited all the time, that's where doing this deep work with human design, with inner child healing, with your finances, all of that comes together.
That's awesome. I'm excited for everyone to check that out. We'll have the link in the show notes is where we will have all that. And I always like to end the conversation with a fun question. What is one bucket list item that you have on your list that you'd like to do in the next couple of years?
Ooh, next couple of years. So I talked about my husband. Next year, 2026 is our 20th wedding anniversary. And we haven't done a lot of international travel yet. And so one of our big bucket list items is going to Europe and traveling through all the different stages of the Alps. So from like Italy, from northern Italy and the Dolomites, like to the Swiss Alps, to like just being in the mountains. Oh my gosh. Yes, such a bucket. I can like feel myself there in front of the mountains and like having that perfect meal and just sitting. Oh, yes.
That's amazing. Okay, 20-year anniversary in the Alps. You're setting some high bars. That's awesome. I'm excited
Yeah.
for you. I've really enjoyed the conversation, the story, the parallels of growth that you're experiencing. And it's just, I'm just tuning into so many people that are having these big unlocks and realizing that it comes from within, not from external changes, but that great things happen on the external when we start to change ourselves. So, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Joy. It was such an honor and a pleasure to talk with you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.